Welcome to the Film School Podcast, episode 2. I am Amy Kay, and my co-host is Aaron. Are you going to say hi?
Hello.
And we have a special guest today, Dawn Erickson, or ExpletiveDleted from Stardust and her blog. I'm really excited to have her on today because we are going to be talking all about the Oscars, and she is just an Oscar genius, I would say.
Hi. I don't know about genius, but obsessive at least. That's for damn sure.
All right. So I went really hard in this year for the Oscars, and I was so excited for a lot of the nominees. And let's talk about where everyone is on kind of the range of where they were when they went into like the ballot process, or when the Oscars were kind of finally announced, or like the winners were finally announced.
Personally, I don't think I was. Sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say I don't quite get what you mean by that, but then you're answering, so maybe that'll help me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of was going more for Aaron because I know you probably were super prepared, and I know Aaron was probably not as prepared as both of us.
No, not as prepared. I still haven't seen Shape of Water, which I'm still kicking myself about because it's still not available to rent, and there's absolutely no place. I live in a really podunk part of Texas. It's just not showing anything that in depth of Oscar, and it's just anything remotely related to Oscar for the most part. I mean, they just weren't showing it here at the time that I could go see it.
Yeah, for me, honestly, I was not a huge fan of The Shape of Water, even though a lot of people were. It's not probably like one that I would recommend seeing, but I also am not a huge fan of Guillermo del Toro's movies. Not Guillermo del Toro, I love him, but I'm not a fan of his movies. So that's my recommendation, but I still think it's worth watching. So when you can rent it, definitely rent it.
Yeah, I think it's got all the elements of like Best Picture, and so I'm fine with it having one, but it wasn't really my favorite. I had some issues with it, but at the same time, like all the pieces are there, and it is a really beautiful movie.
Yeah.
I think the DVD is out either next week, maybe sometime this month for sure. There's like a day that like 4 of them are coming out all at once for the like Oscar nominees. So
it actually comes out on Tuesday. So the day after this podcast goes up, it will be on DVD and Blu-ray.
There we go.
I'm checking it out then. I definitely had my favorite. Like I've already had my favorite when I saw it.
And that same here. And I think we have the same favorite. We talked about this already. I think we have the same favorite for Best Picture.
Yeah.
I love the hell out of 3 Billboards.
Same.
For me, personal favorite would have been 3 Billboards, but pick to win, or like if I had a vote, I would have actually voted for Get Out.
Same.
Like 3 Billboards better.
Yeah, so I guess we want to start with Best Picture, talking about that, breaking that down a little bit more. The nominees were Call Me By Your Name, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, The Post, The Shape of Water, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. And I guess we all unanimously wanted 3 Billboards to win. That was our favorite. I would have voted for Get Out if I had the choice, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed 3 Billboards the most. It just, and all the pieces are there. The dialogue is fantastic, the cast, all that. But I would have loved to Get Out win because it's just, and I've used this word to describe the movie every time I talk about it, but it's revolutionary because it plays with genres to the point where it created its own. Like, how many movies can say that they did that? Like, that in and of itself is enough for me to say it should be Best Picture. And then on top of that, just like the conversations that got started, like it became such an important movie in this culture and in this country, that also on its own would be enough for me to say that it should be Best Picture. So the two of those together, like, I would have loved to see it win.
Totally, I 100% agree with you on that. Like, Get Out was probably one of my top 5 favorite movies of last year, not including, well, because most of the Oscar nominees I did not see until this year. So that was probably my favorite out of all of them from last year. Like, I was obsessed with it.
I agree with Get Out as well. I love the Hitchcockian atmosphere of it. I've been a big fan of Alfred Hitchcock for years, and for some reason Jordan Peele really knew how to get into your mind with a lot of the characters, and that's something I absolutely loved about Get Out. You know, I thought it was a great callback as well to older mystery films from the Hitchcockian era.
Yeah, and Jordan Peele talked a lot about he pulled a lot of his inspiration from those kind of films and Stepford Wives primarily because of the whole like facade that happens in Stepford Wives and that most of the white families do in Get Out as well, which I thought was really awesome, and how they used all those layers and different like kind of just things you don't even notice that kind of bring or harken back to what the whole concept of the film is about, which is kind of another reason why I love that, because I love those tiny little things that make you really think.
I think, and that's why I love learning about it. I love watching Hitchcock because Hitchcock made you think a lot like what Jordan Peele did. I think I loved it.
And out of all of the Best Pictures, which, I guess so far for you, Aaron, but for you as well, Dawn, which was your least favorite? Because I have a very specific one that was my least favorite.
Darkest Hour should not have been on that list.
Same. I loved Gary Oldman. Him and the makeup were probably the only two parts of that movie that I actually really enjoyed. But I really did not like that movie.
I think the one I enjoyed least was probably Phantom Thread, but I definitely see the artistic merits in it, so I'm more okay with that one having been nominated. Darkest Hour was really a vehicle for Gary Oldman, so it should not have been.
Yeah, like, but I think the way, I'm not 100% sure on the way the Academy lets movies become nominees, but I think they have to have at least another nominated category. Like, so if he was nominated for Best Actor, the movie has to be nominated for Best Picture as well. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but that's I think something.
That part works, but I know there's this weird thing where like you rank your choices and then you have to get a certain percentage of the first place choices or like the first place votes in order to be counted, and then from there they like then narrow down the list further. So definitely would have had to have had a lot of support to get in there, and I feel like it's basically everyone who worked on the film was kind of pushing it, because I really don't think that I heard too much from anyone else in the world that wanted to see this as a Best Picture nominee.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of like The Post, that was nominated. I didn't see a lot about for that anywhere.
The Post was great. I loved it, but it was a little paint by numbers. Like, because Spielberg and Hanks and Streep are going to be fantastic, and they were. But there wasn't anything too revolutionary about it. Like, nothing that really wowed and surprised you. And one thing that the Oscars have been getting good about lately is coming up with nominees that really are different and out there and change the game in some way or another. And that one didn't really. And I think my cat might have something to say about that.
Let's hear it.
No.
I agree though. Like, I don't know why it was nominated either. It's a great movie and I loved it when I watched it, but not as a Best Picture.
20 years ago, it would have been a major player.
Oh, yeah. Because that's when Steven Spielberg was at his height. And everyone was like, this is Spielberg.
That's when these type of movies did well. But now, the Academy wants something different, which is awesome. We don't want to see the same ones, which again makes it more baffling. The Darkest Hour ended up there, but
Yeah.
whatever. No one voted for it.
I enjoyed Darkest Hour. I enjoyed Darkest Hour more than I did Dunkirk. But I don't think Dunkirk should have been up there.
I totally disagree with you on that.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with Dunkirk when it
I
came
was
out.
excited for Dunkirk, and then I actually watched it, and I was bored by Dunkirk.
So I actually split the difference between you guys because I was kind of bored with Dunkirk. I wasn't that excited with it, but I do think that it deserves to be on the list because of the technical merit. I think it's one that, again, overall fantastic. It's just the storyline was weak. Like, and that was a choice that Nolan made, was not to focus on plot, not to focus on characters, which for me, I think the movie suffered because of it. But just everything else was just so on point that I do think it deserved the nomination, but wasn't going to win. It shouldn't.
With Dunkirk, I was totally distracted by the atmosphere that I just could not get into the story. I absolutely love the atmosphere.
Which is what he was focusing on for that. There was no real story whatsoever, and he made a point about that. There's not really a story because all 4 storylines in that, like I say storylines loosely, because all the storylines are just going towards the same ending point, really, because Dunkirk is just an historical event, and he was just planting these storylines within that event. So everything was mostly revolving around the editing, the sound design, and kind of just the way it all looked and felt, which is one of the reasons why I loved it so much, because I'm a huge Nolan fangirl, and I just like the way he built this atmosphere up without really needing to tell a story.
Yeah, and that's why this movie is so divisive, because I am somewhat of a Nolan fangirl too, but I need plot and I need characters. That to me is far more important than the technical aspect. So
sound editing alone and atmosphere alone, they not a best picture make.
I don't think it would have been best picture. I feel it belongs on the list for a nominee, but I don't think it was the caliber to win best picture. But I do feel it should have been on the list because it was like it's not like how Darkest Hour and like Phantom Thread and The Post. I kind of say the Phantom Thread loosely on there, but it's not the way those are all just kind of, they're not different. Dunkirk is kind of different, like kind of not different, but it's also very different in its way of showing the loosely story.
Yeah, and I mean, Dunkirk is one of the best put together films of the year, which is why it deserves to be on the list. But again, it's missing the elements that would have kept it from a win.
Yeah. And I actually, oh, sorry.
I'm not doubting that that Nolan actually did a great job making it look good. It's just that's all I was paying attention to. I couldn't get into anything else about Dunkirk.
Which I think that's what he was trying to go for.
Yeah.
Because there was no story, so he wasn't really trying to get you into anything else. He just wanted to immerse you in what these people were going through on Dunkirk Beach. I actually got into an argument or like more of a debate with somebody in my comments section on my like Oscar rundown about the editing on Dunkirk. They thought Baby Driver should have won, and I thought Dunkirk should have won, but I put Baby Driver to win because I thought it would. And we got into a debate based on like, I thought Dunkirk had the better editing because it was bringing all of these storylines together in a way, and it wasn't even like in order or like any nonsensical order. In the way that they edited together made it really interesting and kind of kept you in the story. Otherwise, it was, you would have been lost, I guess, is kind of what I'm trying to say.
I knew how they were doing the timeline, and I was still kind of confused by it. And like, I talked to people who saw it later, and they didn't even realize the converging timelines, that they were different. So I think Nolan made a choice, and I applaud him for trying it. I'm just not so convinced that it worked well.
I can see that. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think there was like time cards that he would put up. That's kind of, that signaled to me at least that they were doing different timelines. And it took me a minute at first to kind of realize that that's what he was doing.
I mean, he
But
established it at the beginning, but like going through, it was weird to try to reconcile when events were taking place relative to each other. Because to me, it seemed like things were happening at the same time, but I knew that they weren't because I knew how he was doing the timelines, and it just I don't know. I don't think it was as obvious when different things were happening.
I can see that. Yeah, I do agree somewhat on that. I don't know. I feel like maybe it's just my like fangirlness for Nolan kind of blinds blinds it all for
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
So, do we want to go into another category and talk about maybe actor and actress in leading role? Because, I mean, honestly, for most of these, I kind of knew what was going to win. It was more
Yeah,
like the smaller
it was
categories.
it was almost boring watching. Well, I was checking the results on my phone for the first half because I was stuck on a bus. But when I was watching, like it was almost boring because I'm like, oh, I know it's going to this, I know it's going to that. Which like even though I'm so excited for the people who won, sans Gary Oldman, we'll talk about that in a second. Um, like I mean, I've been a huge fan of Sam Rockwell forever. I've been a huge fan of Allison Janney, and you know, I was so excited when they were starting to get buzz. But by the time it finally happened, it was like, well, yeah, that's what was going to happen. So
Yeah. Like that's kind of
Yeah.
how I feel like that's why I did so well on my like office Oscar ball because it was just like they won all the
yeah,
winners, won every other like won every other award show that they were nominated for. So I'm just like, they're gonna win, they're gonna win, they're gonna win. Like the
yeah,
hardest one was Best Picture
I
because
know, which
that
is
could have been anyone. There, it could have been like any of like four.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, I guess if we want to get into the top acting ones specifically, so actress Frances McDormand, I think she owned that one. There's no question in my mind that she should
Yeah,
have taken that.
I think
Absolute.
the
Yeah,
only other person I would have liked to win was Sally Hawkins because even though I wasn't a huge fan of Shape of Water, I absolutely loved her performance because Aaron
yeah,
knows this. I am obsessed with silent movies and
Mhm.
the like I just love the way she was able to kind of bring in the way an actress in the silent movie era would have portrayed this character kind of
mhm.
well I guess just because she's mute so it just she just did such a great job of doing that to me at
Yeah.
least.
That's something that I've found seems to be a trend in a lot of category in a lot of acting races is that like your two front runners tend to be someone who's in a really wordy role and someone who's in a like more emotional role that like hardly has any dialogue. So like Frances McDormand versus Sally Hawkins, Gary Oldman versus Timothy Chalamet. Last year, Denzel versus Casey. Like, and it's so hard to pick one versus the other because they're just like completely different skill sets and just have a completely different impact. Um,
I yeah totally agree.
but yeah, I mean, I guess yeah, going over to Best Actors. So I'm a little annoyed with this one. Like I knew that's how it was going to go, and I've accepted it. It's fine. And I think career wise, Gary Oldman deserves it. Like he deserves to have won an Oscar at some point in his career. My problem with him winning for this is again, it was so paint by numbers. Like how many people have won awards for playing Winston Churchill even in this past year? I mean, John Lithgow just won an Emmy for it. Like, you know, it's sort of like, oh, you want to win an Oscar? Let's play Winston Churchill. And like the bar for him was really high and he met it and he was fantastic, but he didn't wow me. He didn't surprise me. He just did exactly what I expected him to do, which not that it was bad, like it was great, but again, I you know that he's going to do that. Whereas the one that did wow me was Timothy Chalamet. Like I did not know anything about this kid, did not expect anything from him, and like I felt the emotions that he felt. Like just you know, like the end credits and like various other points during the movie, just the looks and expressions he would give. Like I knew exactly what was going through his head and what he was feeling, and I've never felt like that intense emotion. Like I don't do romantic movies, and I was just blown away by him.
I like literally 100% agree with you on that. Like for an 18-year-old, he played that like he played the hell out of that role. Like
Yeah,
I was just so blown away. I'm like, I feel you. I have been there. I know what you're feeling. Like I connect with you on so many levels. You're just I was so mind blown watching that.
yeah, exactly.
The only other person I would have liked to win, and this is just for kind of the like the balance and like the difference is Daniel Kaluuya for Get Out. But that's just another reason I loved Get Out. So I just wanted him to win because I thought he did such a great job. And it's another one where you feel his emotions throughout the entire movie. You feel how scared and terrified he is. And when he goes into the sunken place the first time, you feel like I felt myself sinking into my movie theater chair with him. I'm just like, oh God, no.
Yeah, I definitely need to watch that again, paying more attention to him because like I hadn't realized like how impactful he was on the film until like later hearing about that. Because for me, it was just the experience of the film as a whole.
I
So
think
I
one of my
definitely.
favorite.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Sorry.
No. I was
I think one,
I was
someone be
finishing up
humble
my
here.
thought. So.
One of my favorite parts about Daniel Kaluuya is how people played off of him. Like I like Bradley Whitford's character, and I like their chemistry throughout the film, especially in the beginning of the film, where he kind of where he's having the conversation about Barack Obama, best president we've ever had, hands down. I'm like, yeah, you're trying to win his good graces. That's actually kind of funny. But I love Daniel Kaluuya in Get Out. I thought he was fantastic. I would have loved to have seen him win it. Absolutely.
Yeah, and
I've been
I
a
feel like the only problem I have with that is though a lot of people probably would have voted for him for the racial kind of like he's an African or I guess he's not American, so he's a black winner. Like I know Denzel was also nominated and Denzel's won Oscars before, but this is a very different role than Denzel's ever played.
Yeah.
And I have an issue with Denzel being nominated. But that's like not as big of an issue as like Gary Oldman.
I have an issue with the fact that that movie got nominated for anything. I mean,
Yeah.
Denzel was the one good thing about that movie.
I wanted to see it, and then I was like, I feel like I'm not going to like this movie, and I hadn't heard great things about it, so it's just like, I'm not going to see it anyways. But I was just like, the only reason I wanted to see it was for Denzel.
Yeah, he's good. I mean, and it's still it's the same character he always plays, but with a little bit of a different spin. So it is just different enough. Yeah, I mean, I really, really wanted to see James Franco nominated, but stuff happened.
Yeah, same. Like
But like,
my favorite movie last year, like toward the very end, was The Disaster Artist, and I was like, oh, it's gonna get nominated. I'm really excited to see it win. I'm excited to see James Franco nominated and to see what Tommy Wiseau does if he wins. And then all that stuff with James Franco happened. I'm just like, yeah, it's not going to happen. I was surprised it was even nominated for writing.
The reason I like why he was initially my pick before all that happened was because he surprised me. I am a huge James Franco fan, and like I have seen him do everything, and the fact that he surprised me for one, and then I would forget that I was watching him. I would think I was watching Tommy.
Yeah.
Again, given how many of his movies I've seen, that's a huge feat. And that like it was a comedic role, but then there were moments that would like make me whimper and like tear up, and I was like, how is he doing this with like when he's watching the movie at the end and like everyone's like laughing at it, like I just started to feel for him so much. I'm like, what is happening to me?
It's totally like Tommy is just such this out there character, and James Franco I feel like is a really out there person as well. Like he just does whatever, and so I feel like this role was made for him. And he did such a great job. And I was kind of a little upset that he wasn't going to get nominated. But at the same time, I was just like, he kind of deserves it if he did all that stuff. But that's a whole another thing.
That's another podcast.
But yeah, I definitely really loved Disaster Artist. It surprised me. I knew I was going to like it, but it surprised me with how much I actually liked it and how much I actually felt and how much emotion they put into it. They did such a really great job.
Yeah, that's officially my favorite movie of last year, although Big Sick might be moving back up to the top spot. But I actually just finished reading the book, The Disaster Artist. It's so good. Like it has a different it focuses in on different pieces than the movie did. So like there's so many more like anecdote stories, and it's just I don't know. If you enjoyed the movie, definitely check out the book.
Yeah, I've been meaning to. Like when I was getting ready to go see the movie, a lot of my coworkers were like, "You need to read the book too." I'm like, "It's on my list of things to read,"
It's
but
a
I
quick
haven't
read.
yet. Okay,
Yeah.
good, because I may go pick it up this week sometime and breeze through it.
You mentioned the Big Stick, and I'm with you. I'm kind of shocked that it didn't get. Did it get nominated for anything?
It got nominated for Best Original Screenplay, which that was one of my picks to win if I had a vote.
When I saw the Big Stick in this summer, I actually got to go to the premiere, which was insane. It was one of those like email lists of like, yeah, early screenings. Oh, by the way, go to a premiere. But when I was sitting in the theater watching this, it was like Best Original Screenplay. Like, and that was what, June, July?
Yeah, that was in June, because that was like one of the first movies I watched when I moved out here, and I moved out here in May. Yeah, and I was like, I'm a big fan of Kumail, and I listen to a lot of his podcasts and the podcast he has with his wife, and he talks about this story a lot. So I knew the story going into it, but I was still like just so heartbroken and just went on the emotional journey with them, and I was absolutely in love.
I mean, I laughed so much. Again, I felt like really emotional watching. I actually just showed that for like my birthday movie night a couple weeks ago, and like I had friends who had never seen it. It ended up being one of the best movies I've ever shown at movie night. Just because it is so funny and so relatable too. Because like so many part of why I don't do romantic movies is because they're so unrealistic and cheesy and make me nauseous. But this one is it's so real and like as close to actual. I mean, it's still dramatized, of course, but um, definitely like more relatable than you usually get types of films.
Yeah, because I mean, it was written. Oh, what? Sorry. It was written like by the. Oh, we keep doing that. Okay, you talk.
Sorry. I mean, I absolutely loved the Big Stick last year, and I'm saddened that nothing that only one nomination came about out of it.
It's kind of it was the little movie that could in a way, because like those type of movies don't get nominated. It's small. It was from Amazon Studios. They're just barely dipping their toes into the game. So the fact that people were talking about it as a Best Picture nominee, that is huge. And so it's incredible that it did get at least the screenplay nomination, which is the one it most deserved out of everything. I think maybe if the Best Picture nominees had gone one more space, it might have snuck in. But it didn't do that well in too many of the precursors either. So I think the people who love it, but it just got kind of overshadowed by bigger players.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, I mean, the acting in it wasn't like superb. I mean, it's probably the best that Kumail Nanjiani has ever done, but this is his first starring role. He's never done anything besides a supporting role or a small cameo. So I give him a lot of credit for taking on that lead role, but he just wasn't up to par for that nomination, and I wasn't expecting that from him anyways. And I don't think Zoe, I don't remember her last name, who played Emily. She was not lead actress either.
She has played that role like basically every movie that she does, and she's great at it. That's why she keeps on doing it. But like seriously, watch like any of her movies. Watch Ruby Sparks, or I remember some of the others right off. But she's always the like manic pixie dream girl type.
Yeah, but I do agree. Like maybe if they took off Darkest Hour or The Post, it probably would have gotten onto Best Picture.
Yeah,
because it's like, I mean, wasn't Manchester by the Sea an Amazon movie also? And that was nominated 2 years ago.
Yeah, that one was able to make it in. But that's a little bit more Oscar friendly.
And that one I think had a lot more star power.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to say Oscar friendly about a movie that's so devastating, but I mean, it really does play into the Academy a lot better than Big Sick does.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised but not really, that All the Money in the World wasn't nominated, especially with everything that they had to do with Kevin Spacey and like with him, like switching him out. So I was kind of surprised that that didn't get nominated, but at
Yeah.
the same time, I wasn't because I didn't find that movie as great as I thought it would be, especially
I
with
think
all that.
it's a great study in film making just because of how they pulled off that switch. I think that is the only thing remarkable about it. That and Michelle Williams is great in that, but she's great in everything. But the movie itself wasn't anything too special. It was okay. It was a little too drawn out, could have been a little tighter. But yeah, I mean, Christopher Plummer did deserve his nomination, not necessarily because of the performance itself, but being able to pull off that performance under the circumstances.
Yeah, to me, he was one of the nominees in that category that, like, I mean, he did a great job and he deserves an Oscar for everything because he's such an amazing actor. But like, he wasn't in it as much as I thought he would be, which
Mhm.
granted, they probably wanted to cut him out of as many scenes as they could since they didn't want to like
Yeah.
put it all back in. But I didn't feel like he pulled it off as well as he
Yeah, I feel
probably
like
could
if
have.
he had done the film normally, had been the original one cast, we wouldn't be talking about it. He wouldn't have gotten a nomination. But the fact that he pulled it together within what, a week or two, like that that I think is what's kind of worthy. But at the same time, there was such stiff competition here in that category. I mean, we could have had Armie Hammer, we could have had Michael Stuhlbarg, we could have had, I don't know, a whole bunch of other
I feel like
people.
Michael Shannon should have been nominated because he terrified me in The Shape of Water. Like, I wasn't
I've seen
too
like every
happy.
movie that he does.
Oh, for real. But I wasn't like I was like Richard Jenkins' character. I feel like it was
Oh,
kind of
I
just
love
like
him.
I just didn't feel like it was up to snuff with what he usually does either. I felt like it was kind of just like
I
maybe a step lower than what he normally does.
I really wish that his role would have been expanded. Like one of my biggest gripes with Shape of Water is just story wise. I feel like it was too slow and like the Cold War aspect felt a little forced. I would have preferred them to tone that part down and play up his character instead. That would have been a lot more interesting.
Yeah, because I feel like they could have done a lot more interesting, like had like a subplot with him and his art because they do maybe two scenes with him at the ad
Yeah.
agency, and it felt very out of place unless they had done more with it. Besides
And
the fact that he was like drawing like her and the water monster together, and that's kind of it.
yeah, and like just the whole aspect of like his romantic life and his sexuality, like I completely missed that. And that's like the sort of thing that I normally like I as much as I say I don't like romances, I love gay characters. And so like I that's really why I would have loved to see that story more, see how that played out, maybe have that have a love story for him that was more in parallel with the the main one. I've like explored the like dichotomy between those two relationships. I think that would have been a much more interesting film.
Yeah, like I kind of am with you where I didn't realize that he was a gay character until like they take the key lime pie back to their apartment and she
Mhm.
opens up the fridge and there's like all of these pies in there that have like one bite taken out of them. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I get it." But they didn't go forward with that as much as I would have wanted them to.
Yeah.
So, like if he hadn't been nominated, Armie Hammer probably would have been like probably my pick for like best supporting
Yeah,
actor
I think
after Sam Rockwell.
um yeah, I think for like the last spot, it would have been one of the supports from Call Me by Your Name because Army I feel like was miscast. He was great, but the thing is he's like 10 years older than the character is supposed to be. And Timothy Chalamet was about the right age, but then what I didn't realize because like I remember the first time watching Call Me by Your Name thinking like the age difference still feels a little creepy, but like I was able to move past it. And then what I didn't realize until so I saw it at a SAG screening with a friend of mine and they did like a Q&A with the director and the two leads. So yeah, he's 16, but in Italy that's the age of consent. And then Army's character isn't supposed to be like 30, whatever Army is. He's supposed to be like 22. Um, so like that would make a huge difference.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference. Like, because I was like, it feels weird because he doesn't feel, he looks, and
Yeah.
I know, like, because I know who Armie Hammer is and I've seen him in so much, I'm like, he feels too old to be a grad student
Yeah.
TA kind of thing. So I'm like, it feels a little weird. Who would your choice have been to play Armie Hammer? Because I don't
Oh,
know. who I would have if they like picked somebody else.
Yeah, I'd have to think about it. Clearly someone 10 years younger.
Yeah.
Uh, um, hmm.
Because like I mean, I guess they probably picked him for a reason because maybe they had like a bunch of 20-something actors.
Actually, they talked about this at the Q&A. He and the director had been trying to work together for a while. They were familiar with each other's work and just never got a project. And then this one came along and they're like, hey, let's do this one.
Okay, so it's kind of more of like not an audition thing. It was just like this part we slightly wrote for you based on a book character
Yeah,
that
and I
is
think
totally not your age.
I think it also took a few years to get going too. So
Okay.
he got older.
That makes sense. But knowing that, I'm gonna like try to watch that again, thinking about some other people who I think would have been better in that role.
Yeah.
But I can't think of any like 20-something Oscar caliber actors to play that role.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'm just trying to think of like early 20s actors, and all I'm getting is Ansel Elgort, who I love him, but now
He's too young to play that. I feel like he's
yeah,
like
that's
he's
true.
like
So yeah,
Timothy
no,
Chalamet's age. It would have been like
yeah,
too on the nose. I feel like
yeah. Oh, man. So then a little older than that. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
yeah. But Sam Rockwell definitely, I think,
Yeah,
like supporting actor and actress were both like hands down. Like those were the two that were going to win no matter
for
what.
sure. For
Like I
sure.
haven't seen Mudbound, but I'm not a huge Mary J. Blige fan as a singer, so but
I
that's just
feel
because
like
it's not the
that
genre
is.
of music
I mean, she was good. I feel like that's one of those that like she got the nomination because she's playing so against type.
Yeah.
Similar to how Willem Dafoe got his nomination. Like he's my second choice for supporting actor, but like I think the reason I was blown away by him in Florida Project was because he doesn't play that kind of character. And if someone else had played the role and done the exact same like performance, I would just be like, okay, whatever. But actually, this was a conversation I was having with somebody the other day because they were like, no, but Willem Dafoe was so good. I'm like, he's good because you don't expect that. Whereas what Sam Rockwell did, that was masterful. I mean, he would go back and forth between comedic and dramatic, not just in the same scene, but often in the same sentence. So like
Yeah.
another actor in that spot, and they can't handle that.
No, like, and I think that is a. Oh, sorry, Aaron. What were you gonna say?
I was like, I loved how I despised Sam Rockwell at the beginning of that, and I just loved how in the middle of it, you just kind of changes your mind in the middle of the film, and it just
Right, he
blew me
becomes
away with
sympathetic
how
as it goes on.
exactly. I didn't want to like him at the beginning, and then all of a sudden, I loved how Sam Rockwell's character was written. It was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And then Sam Rockwell himself just knocked it out of the park.
No,
Oh yeah, I think Martin
he's
McDonagh
phenomenal.
did a great job on the screenwriting for that. It was just all of the characters were so well written. Like
Yeah.
I was just blown away by the entire cast. Like I feel like Woody Harrelson was maybe a little like his normal type of character, just like not as over the top, but he still was really great. And I feel like the most underutilized person in that entire cast was, oh my gosh, his name is like just on the tip of my tongue and I can't remember it for some reason. I don't know why I'm blanking on it.
Which
Wait,
like
who
character
are
was
you
he?
talking?
Hold on, I'm looking it up. I'm gonna like be like, oh duh, that's what it is. I know what it is, but it's just like it's right there and I'm blanking on it.
Lucas Hedges?
No. Well, and he's not even on the first page either. Um Peter Dinklage.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
yeah, I feel like he was so underutilized. He was only
He
in like
was.
4 scenes and he was only there to move the plot along just slightly. Like,
Yeah, he was more there
Just be Francis
for
McDormand's
Francis
love interest.
I don't think he was even
quote
really a
unquote.
love interest. I feel like he was just a plot device.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, because he was trying to be a love interest of Frances McDormand's character, but
I think in the alternate universe in which the movie revolves around him, then
it
his
will be a
character
pretty
is a
boring
love.
movie.
Yeah. But I'm just
It will be
saying,
like-
in that universe, then his story is a love story. But seeing as how this one revolved around Francis McDormand, he was,
Yeah, I feel like you would just like follow him around, and it would just be like him following her around, like going to the like store that she works at, and then going back to his place, and it's just like Frances McDormand pictures all over, and it's like it's kind of creepy because he's like really into her. But I feel like they could have utilized him more as a character and a love interest, but he wasn't essentially just a plot device.
Yeah.
I'm
So if
gonna
you
leave
do,
here. I'm gonna leave
Okay.
here just a moment because I'm having some video issues.
Yeah.
looks like we got Aaron back. You good?
Hi, that's me.
Okay. You ready? You good?
I'm ready.
You think you got all the
Ready.
video stuff worked out?
Let's do this. Yeah, I got it worked out.
Okay. So, do we want to keep going into maybe best animated feature? Because I mean, that one I feel like was very obvious.
Coco. What else is there to talk about?
Like, why was the Boss Baby and Ferdinand even nominated? I honestly
Because
didn't
something
see.
needed to be in that category.
Yeah. Like, I understand Loving Vincent and The Breadwinner. I haven't seen them, but I watched the trailers and they both look amazing and Oscar worthy. But The Boss Baby and Ferdinand did not.
Ferdinand was fine. It's just your typical kid stuff. The only thing that really made it watchable was Kate McKinnon. Otherwise, it was a really stretched out story. But the kids like that sort of thing.
Which I think Kate McKinnon makes most everything watchable. Like, she made the new Ghostbusters watchable.
Oh,
I did like the new Ghostbusters because I liked the cast so much.
Yeah.
But I feel like they were trying a little bit too hard.
Maybe.
But
but yeah, so like I feel like I don't know, Lego Batman could have easily taken Boss Baby's spot.
Yeah, for sure. I can't remember any other I can't think of any other animated movies that would have been on here. Like Cars 3 wasn't that great.
No, hell no.
Lego
Cars 3 was
Ninjago
terrible.
was I had high hopes for that because I loved the voice cast, but I ended up really disliking it. I did not like it at all. I thought the jokes in that were not funny.
It was fine. but again, fine is better than terrible, which is what the Boss Baby supposedly is. I wouldn't know because I refused to watch it.
Same. I refused to watch it. You did?
I like Boss Baby. I mean, it's
enough to
warrant
silly.
It's exactly what it's supposed to be. I thought Boss Baby was exactly what it was supposed to be. It was silly. It was fine. It was innocent.
Does it warrant
not best animated picture worthy? So
yeah.
Do you think
again,
it
something
warrants a sequel? Because it's getting a sequel apparently.
Boss Baby.
Boss Baby.
Of course it is.
Boss Baby.
But yeah,
unfortunate.
Coco,
I mean,
hands down, they could have just made animated feature just like everyone knows Coco's gonna win this year.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I cried, I laughed, I cried.
I saw it with a couple of my coworkers because I do every 2 weeks I take my I organize my coworkers going to the movies, and we sat through the end credits because neither of us wanted the others to see us crying. We just wanted to compose ourselves before we left.
Yeah, I was sitting there, and the only bad part about seeing Coco was the Frozen short in front of it. Like, the lady sitting next to me, her kids were just going crazy. Like, what is this? Like, why are we in the wrong theater? And she looks at me and she leans over and she's like, is this Coco? I'm like, yeah, this is just the short that's before. But
I think the short wasn't bad. It was fine. It's just this was the wrong venue for a short of that length.
Yeah, a 30-minute short.
Yeah, like that's. I get that they were like, oh, this needs to be a cinematic experience, not just something you watch on TV, but really it was something to watch on TV.
Yeah, because they debuted it on TV 2 weeks later, I think.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be like a Christmas special on TV.
Yeah.
But then somebody higher up was like, the animation's too beautiful. We can't just leave it to TVs. You need to see it on the big screen.
I wanted another 5-minute Pixar short like normal. Like I would have, those are some of my favorite parts of going to see a Pixar movie in theater.
It's part of the experience, and like you get like a new animation style, you know, some new voices. Like it's something that makes Pixar really special. And
yeah, like it's like such a Pixar thing that other like movies are trying to do. It's like they did it before the Emoji Movie with the Transylvania.
I'm sorry you had to do that. Yeah, I'm sorry you had to see that.
Yeah, like I am kicking myself for going to see the Emoji Movie. But
I specifically avoid, like, I'll watch anything, and like I even had Movie Pass at this point, so I'm like I can see it for free, and I love James Corden, but like all I heard about Emoji Movie was that it's basically a giant ad, and I'm like I can handle bad movies, but I'm not going to the movies to get like sold products. Like that's not why I go.
You don't want an hour and a half ad.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah. Like I got YouTube Red, so I didn't have to see ads on my YouTube when I watched it.
Like, no, but like the movie itself is an ad. Like,
yeah, for sure. It's 100%. Like I think I heard someone say it's just a hour and a half long ad for Dropbox and Twitter and the iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not what I want in a movie.
Yeah.
Like I don't care how awful. I'll still see something that's awful if it appeals to me, but not if that's the purpose behind it.
If I want an ad, I'll watch a Michael Bay film.
Yeah, true. So next we have Best Cinematography, Blade Runner, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Mudbound, and Shape of Water. I 100% went with Blade Runner, but I also like the cinematography in Dunkirk.
I mean, definitely the fact that like people know the name Roger Deakins and he hadn't won before, like that is reason enough for him to have won.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, yeah, Blade Runner is gorgeous. It absolutely deserved it. I also really loved Mudbound, and that's that I saw it at home on my little TV. I would have loved to have seen it on the big screen because just the colors and everything is beautiful. And I think Lestat agrees because she watched it with me. Dunkirk also was great on the cinematography too, just the wide, expansive shots and everything. But I mean, Blade Runner was definitely the worthy winner, I think.
Oh, I agree. I think Roger Deakins is one of the greatest cinematographers of this age, and I'm surprised that he's never won anything for cinematography yet. So I was very happy to see him win.
For sure.
Yeah, it really reminded me of the first Blade Runner, of the sweeping shots of the future and the ads. I don't know if you noticed that, you know, a lot of the classic ads from the original Blade Runner were in this Blade Runner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did a great job of bringing the old one into the new one.
Yeah,
and I love the colors of it. Like that for me is huge with cinematography, and just like each location had like really stark, bright colors, and like that's something that just made Blade Runner stand out. Like you picture the movie and you picture the lighting of it and how he framed the scenes. Like you don't get that often when you think about other movies.
Yeah, exactly. Like I feel like Blade Runner was kind of one of those like it's gonna win kind of things.
Yeah. There's also a great one because like to be honest, I don't know that much about cinematography, but it's one of those that like even if you're new to it, like you can recognize that it's something that it's a good one, and it's one like it's a teachable film for that reason too. Where like if you're talking about cinematography with people, it's like watch this movie, you'll understand so much about it. Just from that.
Yeah, like I've even taken like classes. Like I studied film in college, so it's like I understand a lot of that stuff for the most part. But this one, it's just like because I understood it, it was just like, oh my gosh, I was in awe. I was like, I could never do that. I wish I could do that.
kind of like the end scene where oh God, I forget his name.
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling is sitting on the steps, and the snow is falling on him.
Yes.
God, one of the most beautiful scenes that I had ever seen in any film. Cried during that scene.
Oh yeah, it was
Just
so beautiful.
Beautiful, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
like I need to rewatch Blade Runner again.
So do I.
Like
So do
I
I.
only have like a tiny, like this is my tiny TV, and it's like SD. It's 10 years old, and I'm like I really don't want to watch movies on it, but I just need to rewatch that movie again. Like I have to rewatch Dunkirk. I need to rewatch Thick again. Those are some of the movies I haven't watched since I saw them in theaters, even though I own them.
The second time I saw Blade Runner is actually, there was another one of my like coworker event ones. We saw it on like the shiny like IMAX like super special screen, which normally I think that those screens are just a cash grab. I'm like, it's not worth paying, an extra few bucks for this. Like it's just gonna look the same. This is one of the few movies where it made a difference. It was gorgeous. And like it went from the first time I saw the movie, I was kind of like, it's pretty, but it's too slow. I don't like it. And then watching it on the like fancy screen and just like absorbing all the imagery, I was like, okay, I get it now. Like I liked it so much better that second time.
Yeah, like this is one of those. It's like I have Movie Pass, so I can't get my tickets like pre-ordered until I get to the theater. And this is when I was like getting there at the very last second, like trying to get my ticket. So I had to get like one of the front row seats, very far corner. Yeah. And even sitting in that like really weird angle, this movie still looked so spectacular, and like it just looked so beautiful. I'm like, I never want this to end. I was just blown away by how like beautiful it was, even at that like really odd angle that nobody likes to sit at.
Yeah, for sure.
And I guess next one, we finished cinematography. Because I could probably talk about the cinematography in Blade Runner forever. But costume design is Beauty and the Beast, Darkest Hour, Phantom Thread, Shape of Water, and Victoria and Abdul, which I haven't seen Victoria and Abdul, but I did see the costumes at the Landmark Theater in Santa Monica. Is so like they're so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like,
well, what I love about the fact that one got nominated, and like I hadn't even thought about the costumes, or like I hadn't thought of it as a player in the Oscars. It's a crowd pleasing film. It's really fun, and I mean Judi Dench, of course. But what I realized later when I saw that it was nominated, like not only is it period, which there's always going to be one of those nominated, but it's two different cultures, because you have the British costumes and you have the Indian ones, and just them mixed together is beautiful.
Yeah, like I hadn't like even considered it as like, because I didn't even think about it. It was like one of those films that wasn't playing in like the mainstream theaters. Like if I wanted to see it, I have to go like 30 minutes out of my way to like the Landmark.
Well, so it eventually started to play in the mainstream ones, and when I saw it, it had been out for like a month and a half, and I went to see it in this tiny little AMC near me, and I overheard the ticket taker saying like, yeah, this is like our most popular movie right now. Like everyone is just coming to see it because it's such a joyful movie that like people were really connecting with it.
I may have to check it out. Like it looked really cute, like from like really good from any of like the small glimpses of trailers, because I didn't really hear or see much about it either, unless I was at the Landmark and I saw those costumes sitting in the glass cases in the lobby.
Yeah, because it started off, it was just there at Landmark and ArcLight, and then it expanded just as word of mouth kind of pushed it along. But yeah, but I mean, otherwise, costumes. I love Beauty and the Beast, but I think that's kind of cheating because I'm a Disney kid, and so like it's not so much of like, oh, these are gorgeous and like original costumes. It's these are the costumes that I've loved since I was a kid. Now they're real. But I definitely agree with Phantom Thread winning it, because I mean, first of all, if the film is about somebody who designs dresses, better have some damn good dresses.
Yeah, those dresses were so beautiful, especially that red one that she wears the first time she does the like loop through the.
I feel like the costumes were almost another character in the film.
Yeah,
like they were central to the movie. So of course that was going to win, and it should have won.
Yeah, just like the same, I think the way Gary Oldman's like prosthetics in Darkest Hour were like kind of another character and like pushed his performance up a level. The costumes in Phantom Thread like just made it even more like wonderful and like amazing and an otherwise very very boring movie.
Yeah.
I I was so bored throughout Phantom Thread.
I was too. Good to know I'm not alone, because like it's one of those that like people are like, "Oh my god, it was so good." I'm like,
Like I wanted to like it so much
I love
because I love Paul Thomas Anderson.
exactly. I do too, and I think that kind of hindered it for me because it doesn't feel like one of his films.
No,
Except maybe for like the end, but by the time you get there, I like didn't care anymore. Like
yeah, like the
it's a gorgeous film, it's
cinematography.
beautifully done, but it doesn't have his vibe to it.
Like I think the only thing that really kind of hooked it for me, like as a Paul Thomas Anderson film, was the way he did the cinematography in it. Because I know
Okay.
because he does the cinematography for a lot of his movies. The way he does it is he will frame kind of the same way that Wes Anderson does, but in a vastly different way. Like Wes Anderson does very symmetrical cinematography, where Paul Thomas Anderson makes the sole focus of the like scene the main like center image. They're always in the center, and if he has somebody blocking them, they're like out of focus or like
Okay.
something or
Yeah.
like the way he like frames it is just really amazing, and I wish that he would have been nominated for cinematography. I think it would have been kind of interesting, but it still is very basic cinematography.
Yeah, it
I
sounds
feel
like that's a lot more subtle, because like as you're describing it, like now I'm picturing Magnolia. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Especially that movie is probably a more like stark example of that. But before you telling me, I had no idea.
yeah, and there's like if there's like two focuses, I think there's a scene with Daniel Day-Lewis and his sister. I'm forgetting the actress's name. They were just like two people in the scene, and he will give them equal space, kind of the way Wes Anderson does his symmetrical shots.
Yeah.
Like he'll have the two people in the frame, and it'll be like very even. So I think that's kind of interesting to me the way they did that, but it also is just it's just it made it it still made it a boring movie. I
Yeah.
think mostly because of the writing.
Anyway, so
what's
The
next?
The next category is directing. We have Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, and The Shape of Water. I don't know like which one I wanted to win more between Get Out and The Shape of Water, because I really loved Guillermo del Toro's directing, but I just was like, I love Jordan Peele's directing as well, like especially for his first film, and like it's completely different from his normal style of filmmaking or like his normal style of acting.
I think for me, this category, I was more excited about people getting the nominations, but I didn't really care too much about who won. Like I wanted basically all of the ones that were first time nominees to get their first nomination. I'm like, once I was realizing that it was probably going to go to Del Toro, I was cool with that, just because I mean I love him as a director, and yeah, he juggled so many elements in this film. I think that he was the rightful winner, but I wasn't too excited about director.
Yeah, like I mean, it would have been nice to have like Jordan Peele win for Get Out, or like, oh god, I keep forgetting people's names tonight. Greta Gerwig, Greta Gerwig to win for Lady Bird, because like they're both first time directors, and Lady Bird was such a great film, and I feel like it didn't win anything, did it? So I was like, I feel like she should have won for that, because you like as a girl going through like what Lady Bird went through, I was like, I understand that just the same way I felt like Timothée Chalamet's character.
Watching the movie, you know how like when she jumps out of the car, which is like 5 minutes in, I wanted to basically do that in the theater, just like leave, because it hit so close to home. Like I was a senior in high school the exact same year. I was at a Catholic school. I was, the like weird kid that like was different. I got in trouble for my student council posters, which is something that happens to her. Like her relationship with each of her parents is the same as my relationship with each of my parents, kind of like antagonistic, but still loving with my mom, and then like super sweet with my I was like, okay, this was supposed to be like semi-autobiographical for Greta, but I think it's me. And I was so freaked out.
Because like I wasn't that age in, I think it was 2002, if I'm thinking about that right. Like, so I was in Catholic middle school at that time in 2002. So I mean, I probably wasn't at that level that like she was at, but I still like felt that like the Catholic school mixed with like my high school experience and my relationship with my parents. Like my relationship with my mom wasn't as antagonistic, but we still like fought a lot. Like
like I don't think mine was as extreme as that either, but like still to this day, like I mean, there's a lot of stuff we don't agree on, a lot of things that we don't so much argue about. It's more that I let her talk and I just zone out.
I feel like that's how a lot of people are with their moms sometimes. It's like they just like to talk and you just listen.
Yeah. But still, like the heart of it was very much the same. We're like, you know, we love each other and support each other, but we have very different ways of showing it. And it comes off as like, like very like we get very frustrated and it seems like we're just mad at each other when it's not entirely like the full picture.
Yeah. So I feel like she could have won for that. Excuse me. I feel like she could have won for that as well. Like, I just think that she did such a great job. And I was really like, that was another one that I was like, that could be another contender. But like all of the directors, I feel like were really great this year. Yeah. Except for like what we were talking about kind of with Paul Thomas Anderson is it wasn't probably his best movie out of like all the ones he's done. So he was probably like the low rung on that list.
Yeah. Well, so like I love him, except this now is 3 in a row that I haven't cared for. But like all the ones before this, I love. Like Magnolia is one of my all-time favorites. I will talk about how much I love that one for hours. There Will Be Blood is up there for me too. Like, you know, Boogie Nights, even Hard Eight's really good. And that one's like pretty simple. Like I love all of them except the last 3. Just didn't do it.
Yeah, like There Will Be Blood is probably one of my favorites. So like of his, like it's just so good. And
There Will Be Blood.
And Daniel Day-Lewis did so good in that as well. Like so intense.
I would not even know that was Daniel Day-Lewis. Like if you were to just show me that movie and I had no clue, I would never guess.
So next is documentary feature, which I knew nothing about any of these. Nope. Abacus, Small Enough to Jail, Faces, Places, Aquarius, Last Man in Aleppo, and Strong Island. So I know, like, I picked Aquarius just because that was what, like, I think The Hollywood Reporter and Variety and, like, all of those big, like, websites had picked. So I was just like, I just went with that.
I just don't do documentaries for the most part. I'll watch maybe one a year and not even in the theater. So
this one, I was just like, I don't know, I'll just throw this out there. But yeah, that one.
Eeny, meeny, miny, moed it.
Yeah, and I did the same thing.
I read the like one-line summaries and like what sounds the most topical.
Yeah, and I kind of did the same thing with the documentary Short Subject. But like we had been talking, like Dawn and I were talking before we started about how we just saw signs constantly for Heaven is a Traffic Jam on the 405. And I kind of picked that one before I saw what the other places had picked. And I was just like, okay, I know that one kind of, so I'll pick that one.
Visible, which none of the others were. And given that I live in the town where the majority of the voting population lives.
Yeah. So those were 2 just kind of like, I don't know, whatever categories for me. Next is film editing, Baby Driver, Dunkirk, I, Tonya, Shape of Water, and 3 Billboards. Of course, Dunkirk won, and I picked Baby Driver, which I feel like was a huge mistake because I was like, I know Dunkirk's going to win, but all of my research shows that Baby Driver will. So
I was the other way around. I love Baby Driver for it, but I figured Dunkirk would win just because I knew that, again, given that Dunkirk is the big technical movie this year, it wasn't going to get any major awards, but it was going to get as many of the little ones as it could. So
Yeah.
that's why I figured that would. But I love Baby Driver because, well, again, editing is one that I don't know too much about, but where I really started to learn about it was when Whiplash won. And so that one is so much about like the timing of like the cuts with the music, and that's basically what Baby Driver did. So like for me, that's kind of a sign of a really good one. Just like, are they able to get everything in rhythm? Like, I know that a lot of editing can be like the storytelling, which is why Tanya is there. But I don't know. I kind of like the flashier ones a little better.
Well, like, I haven't seen Baby Driver, and this is kind of the debate I got into with a commenter. Was they like Baby Driver for the reason that you said, like the timing with the music. And I have an issue with that because it, to me, and from what I've heard from other people, is it's basically just like it's editing to music. And that's like, I have a kind of an issue with that because it's just anybody can edit to music. And like the way I liked Dunkirk's editing is because they took all of these different like converging storylines, quote unquote, and the different times of day and kind of brought them all together to kind of immerse and show, like put the viewer in the position of these soldiers, because it's like it is confusing at points, like the way the times get split up and the storylines get split up, and you're feeling that because that's kind of how those like soldiers are feeling. They are like so confused, they don't know what's happening, and you're just kind of thrust into their world. And it kind of goes along with the way the sound mixing and editing was as well. Is it's very confusing and very like hard to, it's like loud and like just very like immersive, and that's why I love the editing, sound and mixing and stuff on this as well.
But like if we're going more for like the way it told the story, I mean, we were talking about this earlier, how like for me, the converging storylines of Dunkirk didn't quite work as well. So if I'm gonna pick an editing one because of how it told the story, that's gonna be I, Tonya. Because it took two very different interpretations of the same story and pieced them together in a way that made sense. And there was all jumping back and forth in time and like point of view and everything. And I think that's the one that for me told a better story through how it was put together.
That would, like, I, Tonya was my choice to win for editing if I had a vote, because of that very reason, because they took the two storylines and like just kind of interwove them together. And I feel like they could have used the editing to tell more of like the distrust between the two characters a little bit more, and like you don't really know, and like build upon the you don't know who really like jacked her and stuff, but they didn't. So I think that's kind of why it didn't win. But I think that they did such a great job telling that story, and that was like one of the reasons why it was my pick. But I like the experimental style that Dunkirk had for its editing, because that's kind of, and I say this because I started filmmaking by editing. Like I've been editing since I was 10 years old. So I kind of have that like inside of me. It's like I really enjoy this because I understand what he did with all of that. And the editor for this is also the editor for Dark Knight. So I was like, he kind of deserves to win this as well, because this was his first win also, I think. I want to double check that because I don't want to be like given wrong. Yeah, this is his first Oscar.
Cool.
So I think it was really deserved for him, because he did Dark Knight and Master and Commander as well. He was nominated for both of those, but didn't win.
Yeah. I mean, I expected Dunkirk to get a bunch of technical awards, and so it makes sense to me. It just, wouldn't have been the one that I would have voted for, but I'm not going to complain that it won.
Yeah. And then Best Foreign Language Film is another one. Like the documentaries, I had no idea of what to choose.
I did see A Fantastic Woman. It's the only one I saw, and I usually don't see the foreign ones unless like it's one of the rare cases where it got another nomination, or if there's something about it that grabs me. And this one, everything I was hearing was great. Like, just the storyline really intrigued me. Again, I really like LGBTQ stories, and I love that this one wasn't a transition story. It was just a story about her navigating her world, and like it could have been about a cisgender character. She just happened to be transgender, and then like, of course, the additional layers that added. I thought, yeah, it's just a very important film. That was really well done. It was very moving. Um, I don't know how it stacked up against the others from not having seen them, but I'm still pretty happy with this one.
Yeah, from what I saw about this after it won, I looked up like the trailer and stuff, and just like hearing the actors speak about it, just I was like, I'm really happy that this movie won. I had picked The Insult, which was only because it was just one of those. I was like, I don't know what's going to win. I don't know anything about any of these, and I just kind of picked whichever one all of the like blogs had picked. So that's like the only reason.
Yeah,
But
I think Insult was an early front runner because that one, I mean, it is still a very topical story, just completely different. But then, yeah, Fantastic Woman just like picked up momentum closer to the end there, and that one also kind of insider guess on that one too was that I knew it was still playing at Landmark while voting was open.
oh,
Whereas
that would make a lot of sense. Yeah, a lot of people were probably going to see it. I should have
yeah,
asked my friend who works at the Landmark. I should have been like, "Hey, what movies are still playing and how a lot of people are going to them? Let me know."
yeah. Well, because when I was hearing people like talking about this movie, I'm like, I'd be interested in seeing it, and then I was looking up showtimes. I'm like, oh, it's playing right here, and it was one of the little bitty auditoriums that has couches for seats.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
which is cool. I hadn't been in one of those yet.
I went to go see the the Christmas movie, the like Christmas Carol movie.
Oh,
We were
Oh, the man who
year's
invented Christmas.
variation.
Yeah, we were waiting because my friend who works at the Landmark was going to get us tickets for Disaster Artist, but they sold out of the employee tickets 3 times before we could actually go get tickets. And so we were just like, he had extra tickets for the month to use, so he's like, "Well, let's just go see this," and we both fell asleep for like because we were sitting on the couches and they're really comfy, so we kind of fell asleep for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, it happens.
Then we kind of talked about makeup and hairstyling for a little bit. Darkest Hour, Victoria and Abdul, and Wonder, which again, I haven't seen Victoria and Abdul, and I haven't seen Wonder. And I didn't really want to see Wonder because it looks like one of those movies that's like meant to make you cry, and I don't like going to see those movies.
It is.
It
But
is.
yeah, there was a sincerity to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it more than I thought because I had the same concerns.
Oh yeah.
And
It definitely had a family atmosphere to it,
yeah,
and it looks like one of those atypical family films that are it's highly inspirational, but it didn't play out like that. It
one
definitely
thing
had
that I
some character.
really appreciated about it too was that it wasn't all from Augie's perspective. You got perspective from all the other characters, like especially
Yes.
his sister, who just kind of gets forgotten about because all the attention's on him. Like, she had her own section of the movie,
Yeah.
and I think that went a long way as far as like, I don't know, giving the movie some more value and like not just seem like a superficial tearjerker.
Yeah, I had made a comment about like not wanting to see it because it looked like a movie that would make me cry, and somebody said that it was kind of to them it felt like a like Disney Channel original movie, but just kind of updated a little bit. So it kind of intrigued me a little bit to maybe possibly just like go check it out if it's on Netflix or like go to a Redbox or something and rent it. But it looked like it was my second choice for makeup and hairstyling because of the prosthetics that they used on Jacob Tremblay.
Yeah,
Look like that.
I expected Darkest Hour to win, and I mean, yeah, that one was just incredible because it was very transformative for Gary Oldman. But I would have voted for Wonder because I feel like it's one thing to just, use prosthetics to make somebody look like somebody else. You have a template, you know what you're trying to do. I mean, yeah, the challenge was in making something that he could work with, but still I feel like there wasn't a whole lot on the design side was more just like the technical aspect of it. But Wonder, they actually had a really fine line to walk because they needed to make this kid look like he was, that he had this condition, but you didn't want it to be so extreme that it was off-putting to the audience. So they had to kind of be creative and find that balance. And on top of that, just the technical aspect of this is the kid they have to put it on. I mean,
Exactly.
Jacob Tremblay isn't exactly the most normal kid. He's probably a robot of some sort, but he still likely has a short attention span. And so to come up with something that they could put on him that he could sit still through, that he wouldn't be like picking at or whatever, and achieve everything else, I think that to me is more impressive than Darkest Hour.
Yeah, the kid was a pro. I don't know how in the hell he kept that on. And
again, I think he's a robot.
He must have learned something from Brie Larson during Room. He must have just done something with Brie Larson. Like, she must have been like, "Hey, this is how you be an actor," and he just like took it to heart. And now he's a better actor than like half of the adult men in Hollywood right now.
Like, how many adult men would be like whiny little babies about 3 hours of prosthetics every day?
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard every single one of them complain on talk shows about how they hate sitting in the makeup trailer for 30 minutes to get their face like...
Yeah, and this kid is just like enthusiastic about it.
Yeah. Well, he'll probably lose that enthusiasm in like 10 years. But I hope not. I hope not, because I feel like he needs to have that, and I hope he doesn't turn into like one of those crazy like child stars like Lindsay Lohan or whatever.
From, like, watching his like Instagram and stuff, he definitely is still a little kid who just like, like freaks out when he meets a Star Wars character or something like that. So I have hope for him. Again, he's a robot.
That or an alien, but like a very well-adjusted alien.
Yeah, he would have had to have done a lot of research.
Oh yeah. So music original score. This one, I was kind of just up for any of them because I enjoyed a lot of the scores. I really enjoyed like Phantom Thread's score a lot as well.
I struggle with this category in general because it's rare that I'll leave a movie and remember what the score sounded like, unless it's John Williams. But nominating him for Star Wars is cheating.
That's like the Beauty and the Beast, like being nominated. It's like everyone loves John Williams. And he was like my vote because I was like, it's John Williams. He's my favorite composer. But the Shape of Water score was probably my favorite. Like Alexandre Desplat's score for the third Harry Potter movie is actually my absolute favorite score. One of my favorite scores of all time.
For me, when I'm picking this category, the first is, can I remember the score after I leave the theater, which is rare. And so that applied to none of them this time. And then can I remember specifically hearing the score at some part during the movie and being like, oh, yeah, that sounds nice. And I remembered having that moment with Shape of Water.
Yeah, especially like the scenes where she fills up the bathroom, which is kind of a spoiler for Aaron, but that scene, like that was the one thing, like I was taking notes when I was doing my review for this, is during that scene I was like, the score in this is so good. Like I love this score so much. And like when I saw the nominees, I was like, I didn't even look at research. I was just like, this one wins, like hands down.
I like the Dunkirk score too. On second viewing, I was watching it at home, so I was like multitasking, so I could actually I was actually listening to the movie more than watching, and I was noticing the score, just like how much it was adding to the suspense and the intensity. But I wouldn't have voted for it or like expected it to win because it was a score that served the movie, but it's not a score that you would listen to outside of the movie, which I feel like is an important part for it too. Because like I've heard people that were like, oh my God, I'm listening to the Phantom Thread score for like the 5th time today, or, so like I kind of weighted that a little bit more, but I'm like, no one's going to listen to the Dunkirk score.
No. Or 3 Billboards, because I don't honestly remember anything about the music in 3 Billboards. I just remember the story and the characters, and that's about it. Like,
was the score for 3 Billboards that original?
Well, so it played during the Oscars, like when the 2 actors won their awards, and because I noticed it. I'm like, oh yeah, that is the score from the movie, and it is a unique sound. It's not your typical like classical music score. It's again a bit more like country. So I get why it got nominated because it's different. But I don't think that it's necessarily like revolutionary different. It's just picked to fit the genre.
They had to throw some movies on here. It's probably like they had to throw like a couple movies like Dunkirk and Three Billboards. They just threw up there.
Boss Baby.
Yeah, exactly like that. It's just like, oh, these are movies that came out this year. Okay, we'll just put them on the ballot as well, and then like we'll throw John Williams on there for good measure.
It can get one more.
Yeah, and it's like John Williams, you did a score this year. Okay, you can go on there as well.
Yeah, I would have thought he would get it for The Post, because The Post was another one where at some point I'm like, oh, I'm hearing the score and I'm like, this sounds nice, and I'm like, this sounds like John Williams.
Well, which John Williams does all of Spielberg's stuff, I think, because I think he's doing Ready Player One as well.
Oh, is he?
I think so.
I'm so excited for Ready Player One.
I am too.
So am I.
I just finished rereading it for the third time.
John Williams and Alan Silvestri, both of them.
Sweet.
Nice.
So that's going to be a powerhouse of a score. Oh, I'm so excited.
They're just missing Danny Elfman.
It's probably like all synth and 80s too. Which,
which is
oh my god, it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, like I'm gonna be at like visiting my parents when that movie comes out, and I'm gonna try to drag my sister with me because I feel like she would really like this, even though she hasn't read the book. And I'm so excited to see it. Like I'm listening to the book that Will Wheaton is reading, and I'm just like, oh, I forgot how much I love this book. It was one of my favorite, not like Harry Potter books in a long time when I read it the first time.
Yeah, it's like top 5 books for me.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, so Aaron, if you haven't read it, I definitely recommend checking it out because it's a really great book.
I will read it.
It's one that's probably worth reading before the movie just because there's so many pop culture references in it. So just to like have an idea of what's in there and what's not, because I feel like I know they're gonna have to change a lot of them. And
I also do want to get the references. I mean, that's tops for me. When I see a book transferred to movie, I want to get the references.
Yeah.
So next is best original song. The only one we all know that Coco was going to win, of course.
This is the one category from the whole night that I am pissed off about.
Which one?
Bad.
This is me. Yes, the performance of that was so good, and it was like about ready to change my mind because I was like,
and then it was so awkward that like they used that to lead into the category, and everyone's like jazzed up for it, and then something else wins, and like
yeah, weird. Like she did such a great performance. Like she even like had her voice like crack, like she was crying, like she did in the movie, and I was just
no, I think she really was like it's. So for me, okay, the reason like those two songs, one of them gives me chills, the other one makes me cry. Chills being This Is Me, cry being Coco. But I feel like Remember Me, I didn't remember the song after the movie. Like I remembered it was the name of the song, but I didn't remember too much how it went. Whereas like I've been listening to the Greatest Showman soundtrack like nonstop since December. And I feel like Remember Me needs the context of the film. So you watch the film, you hear the song, and it makes you cry. Yes, it's powerful, it's great. But if you were to hear the song without watching the movie, it's a nice song, but whatever. But This Is Me, you hear it like in the movie, it's such a powerful moment. But like outside of it, so like even just like her performance or like you hear it, I think it was like getting some radio play stuff, you hear it, and it's a powerful song that connects with people, that has an important message, regardless of what happens in the movie. Like it stands alone as a great song. And that's why
I agree with you on that. That was my second choice to win because I mean I knew Coco was going to win, but that was like this is my vote. Because when I watched that movie, I'm not a huge musical fan. Like I feel like the only real musicals that I have a really big connection to are like Disney movies or The Sound of Music. So I was very hesitant going into that movie that I wanted to see it at all. But the first time that they sing that song was the turning point in that movie for me, where I was like, yes, I really love this movie. And that song, like you said, is so powerful. And like I feel like the whole soundtrack on that is like super powerful about like accepting yourself and like being accepted and all of that kind of stuff. I'm just like, this is
Yeah,
such
I mean
a great
the movie has flaws, but it's such a feel good movie, and it's got amazing music. And like what I've noticed that it comes down to is the people who can appreciate musicals enjoy it, because people who aren't really into musicals, they're gonna notice all the flaws and they're gonna be like, oh, it's too simple, it's too cheesy. What about these plot holes? Blah blah blah. But people who like musicals know how to deal with that, because most musicals have those problems, especially like stage musicals have those problems worse than movie musicals tend to. So like that audience is much more forgiving and more willing to just be like, okay, plot, 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 whatever. Production value, big number, like this is what I'm here for. And so I actually ended up seeing it 3 times because, well, I saw it like on Christmas with my mom and my aunt, and then got so obsessed with the soundtrack. I'm like, I need to see it again so that because musicals are a different experience when you know the music or when you don't. So I was like, I need to see it again because of that. And it was the weekend that they started doing the sing along screenings. So I was like, I should go to one of those. And I was like, no, whatever. I'll just go to like the normal one and like one song in. I'm like, I have to come back for the sing along screening.
Which you actually kind of hit that nail on the head, because I'm one of those people that doesn't like musicals very much. And I went into that, and while I was watching it, I noticed all of the plot holes and all of that kind of stuff. But I was still so invested. Like anytime there was a shift into a song, I got so much more invested in the movie, and I fell in love with it because of the music of it. And that's like the one part of that movie that I like.
Yeah,
that made me love it and give it a high score in like any of my reviews.
Yeah, no, I mean this movie is the quintessential musical experience. Like this is why people love music. I say that I'm a big musical theater geek. Like I did musicals all through college and whatnot. Like when I lived in Boston, I'd go up to Broadway all the time to see shows. So like I know this world and I love this world, and movies like this and like shows like this are why. Like, because like it's escapism at its best. And like I don't care about the technical details of it. I want a show. And that's what the production numbers, the like musical numbers were.
By the way, I need to take a visit over to LA one day. I need to go to one of these sing along shows. It just sounds like a lot of fun.
It was fun. So I went by myself because that's what I do. And it was all little kids. Like I was the only adult there that didn't have a gaggle of girls with them. Like I was going to, giving them my ticket, and like there was a little girl in front of me, like wearing a top hat and like tights, and like, oh, I know what she's going to. And then like I walk into the theater and it's rows and rows of little kids. And then like at first I thought no one was really singing, and I later realized it's like just the way that sound carried, because I'm like, I don't want to be like the only one, especially because I'm like the weird awkward adult that's alone here with like all these kids. But no, it was funny. Like they put the subtitles up during the songs, and yeah, you just kind of go nuts. And like again, the way the sound carries in the theater, you hear like volume, but you don't like distinctly hear like bad karaoke. Also, like you can't get lost in it. And it was a lot of fun. It was I don't think I'd ever experienced a musical that way before. And for one that I was so obsessed with the music for, it was great.
I think that's half the fun of listening to the soundtrack, is that I don't really care how you sound. You're having fun listening to the soundtrack. That's how I.
One of my favorite Stardust reactions, I don't know if you guys saw, Chris D'Onofrio had one for Greatest Showman, where it's him in his car, like at a drive-through, like singing along to the like big duet between Zendaya and Zac Efron, and he's
I think I remember seeing that. That was really good.
He's like, the like most like badass out of the guys on here, like real tough guy, and he's singing this, like, the romantic song, and just he's lip syncing it, but just like letting loose. Like, yes.
Can't wait to get him on the show, by the way.
So next is production design: Beauty and the Beast, Blade Runner, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, and Shape of Water.
Oh, I called that for Shape of Water 5
Shape
minutes.
of Water for sure. Like, I mean, Blade Runner looked really nice, and it was my second choice to win if I like had a vote, because I liked the way they utilized the cinematography, the production design, and the visual effects to combine to make this so beautiful. But just the Shape of Water production design alone was the beauty of that film.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Beauty and the Beast, but again, it was cheating, just like with costumes. And I liked Blade Runner, but I feel like it was more cinematography than anything else. But yeah, production design, and especially because right before I'd seen the movie, I had read an article, and Del Toro was talking about how he like needed like the perfect shade of green for everything because he's a perfectionist like that. And like, yeah, 5 minutes into the movie, I'm like, I get it, I see it. I'm like, this is gonna win, even though like partway down the line during the movie, at some point, I'm like, oh, so much green, I'm sick of it. But it's still, yeah, gorgeous, and just that attention to detail on it.
Next is short film, animated, and live action. These were another couple ones that I didn't really know what to do. Although for short film animated, I picked Lou, which was one of the Pixar shorts from, I don't remember which movie it was in front of. It was the like Lost and Found one.
Oh, that one.
Yeah,
Yes.
like I didn't
Was it
realize that that's
Cartoon?
what it was.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
because
like,
I was looking at I didn't like do more than just like read the names of them, but I'm like, oh, right, Coco had Frozen. That's not going to get nominated. So I'm like, I don't know what any of these are. Thought about that one.
yeah. So it's like that one, I was like, that name sounds really familiar. So I looked that one up and I was like, that is what it is. And I picked that one. So I was
Fucking Kobe
wrong
Bryant.
because of course like Kobe Bryant is gonna win.
Fucking Kobe Bryant.
And like,
I'm a Spurs fan, so I hate the Lakers, and Kobe Bryant is the epitome of everything I hate about the Lakers.
like I grew
And
up in Indiana, which is like a basketball state, and I don't like basketball, so I know nothing about any of that stuff.
in contrast, I'm a Celtics fan, so I just don't like
Celtics
the
are my
Lakers.
number
Period.
two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Celtic. As long as the Celts aren't playing my Spurs, I'm all for them.
Right. For me, it's the Mavericks. So
Mavs are up there, top 5 somewhere. And I'm the anomaly that actually likes the Spurs and the Mavs. Go figure.
right.
Go
I don't.
football. I'm a football fan.
I'm a bigger baseball fan, but that's neither here nor there.
And then Dawn, did you know anything about any of the live action shorts? Like I hadn't heard of
Nope.
any of them, but
Nope.
I liked the acceptance speech for the Silent Child. That was like super amazing how she signed it.
Yeah, well, when I heard what that one was, I need to see that one. Like,
Yeah, that I like as soon as like they won and they were talking about it, I put that on my list to go like find and watch.
yes, yeah, I definitely need to see that because it's something that I'm interested in. Um, and yeah, I love films that celebrate. I don't like the word disabilities, but differently abledness.
Yes.
Um,
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
yeah, and
Any way to check that out, by the way.
I think
I'm
I saw
not
it was on
sure.
YouTube Red. It's like it's online but behind paywalls somewhere. But yeah, I definitely want to see that.
There is a Silent Child trailer, but I don't see if there's any. Oh, where to watch? YouTube for $1.99 or Google Play for $1.99 as well.
That's
I
not
don't.
bad.
I don't think it's a YouTube Red.
Okay, that's what it was. I knew that it was YouTube and cost money.
Yeah, it's $2 on either platform.
Not bad.
So
Yeah,
it's Google Play or what else again?
or on YouTube. YouTube Movies has it.
Okay.
So I just Googled where to watch The Silent Child, and the first thing that popped up was like the two pay to watch places. But yeah, I'm definitely checking that out soon. I may even just
So
like
am I.
pay the YouTube price to watch that.
Yeah, I would totally pay $2 for it. I just need to have the time to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it's a
It's gonna be
short,
just
so
$2.
it's not going to be more than 30 minutes
Yeah, as
long.
I'm looking across the way at a stack of about 10 DVDs that I haven't watched, and Netflix is putting all my favorite shows out this month, and yeah,
Yeah.
I'll get to it someday.
Yeah, I have like a backlog of like YouTube videos and stuff that I want to watch too, but it's like I don't have all the time in the world.
Yep.
I've
Okay.
still got some Oscar noms that I really need to watch. Obviously,
Yeah,
I
Shape
mean,
of Water.
that's become the focal point of tonight's show.
Well, it won won a
Shame.
couple. And I want to see A Fantastic Woman also because that
So
one
do
looked
I.
really interesting.
Yeah, that one was
So
good.
do I.
Sound editing and sound mixing, they had all of the same nominees and the same winner. Baby Driver, Blade Runner, Dunkirk, Shape of Water, and Star Wars. Dunkirk I knew was like a front runner to win all of those.
Yeah.
But I feel like Baby Driver was a close second because of the music and the music editing.
Yes, and for that exact reason, I liked it. Yeah, I called these for Dunkirk from the beginning. I'm like scarily good at calling the sound ones. Once I learned what they were, I remember back when it was Hurt Locker versus Avatar. Everyone's like, "Oh, Avatar's gonna take all these," and I was like, I just like I can still in my head hear the sounds of like the pebbles right before the like bomb goes off in Hurt Locker, and that ended up being what won. And so since then, I'm like, yeah, I kind of got a knack for picking these. So I knew it was going to be Dunkirk. I would have liked to see Greatest Showman on sound mixing, and just because during some of the numbers, so like especially like the Zac Efron Hugh Jackman duet, like they'd like slam down the shot glasses in time with the music and like play with props and like bring out that sound, or like in the opening number, the like horses clopping along in tempo with the music. Like I thought that was really well done how they did that, and like that was consistent throughout the movie that they would play with sound effects as part of the music. But again, people weren't really taking British Showman seriously.
Yeah, I feel like Star Wars probably like it was another one of those like cheating kind of things because like especially with the when the spaceship or when Laura Dern's character takes the ship through and it's just like complete silence. And then it's like it's also like the laser blast and all of that stuff is like very technical, but it's also just kind of a gimme for Star Wars because that's kind of what Star Wars does.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, generally, like again, part of why I call Dunkirk is that war movies tend to do really well because of again, like the sounds of like explosions and the gunfire and everything. Like,
Yeah, because didn't Hacksaw Ridge won both of these
I
2
think
years
so.
ago?
Yeah, and again, Hurt Locker won way back when, and yeah, those tend to be the ones that get it. So whenever I see a war movie up there, I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, those are gonna win. Visual effects, we talked about this kind of a little bit when we were talking about production design. Blade Runner, Guardians, Kong Skull Island, Star Wars, and War for the Planet of the Apes. I personally would have picked Planet of the Apes because they did such a great job on the apes and they've been getting progressively better since the very first one.
Yeah, like you don't even notice that they're CGI.
No.
I actually expected it to win, not just because of that, but I thought it would have been kind of like a sneaky workaround to give Andy Serkis an Oscar.
Yes. Like, I feel like they need to have a specific category soon for best motion capture performance.
I wouldn't be surprised if someday soon they give him an honorary Oscar, special Oscar for that, because he has done not just in this franchise, but I mean everything.
Like he was in Star Wars, he was in Kong,
yeah, like
he was in
the work that
Lord
he
of the
has
Rings.
done. Yeah, the work that he has done in this space is unparalleled. Like, I mean, and it's so groundbreaking. Like, so many movies have taken their cue from him doing this.
And it's like, and it's not, he's not just the actor behind them. He is like a pioneer in the technology of it too, which is just as amazing.
And like, oh, go ahead.
I was like, he's not just a great like motion capture actor. Like in the Civil War, like in Captain America Civil War and in Black Panther, he's a great just on-screen physical in-person actor as well.
Right. And well, one of the arguments I first heard when like people started talking about like, oh, Andy Serkis should be getting awards recognition is they're like the way that the technology works, it's no different from Gary Oldman under prosthetics or like somebody with a mask. Like it's mapping the exact same thing that he's doing, but we're stupid.
Yeah, I feel like if they do, which I've heard talks about them continuing the Planet of the Apes franchise into another, like into more, and it's going to be based on Caesar's son. And I feel like Andy Serkis has said he would play the son also. They might like start, hopefully, would be giving him like an Oscar for like best lead or something.
Yeah.
Because he deserves it. Like, just, it's amazing. And I feel like Blade Runner only won just because it's just the way the look of it, because it looks so much like the original.
I feel like this year, this category, nothing wowed me. Because some years there's like, oh my God, this movie had this brand new technology, or, you know, there's usually one that stands out for some reason. And none of them really did, which is why I thought the War would have the advantage because it had this other thing going for it. But I don't know.
Yeah. It's just, and like, Kong Skull Island, it wasn't like, I didn't find that such a great movie. And
it was a good popcorn movie.
Yeah, it was like, it's like an action movie that I would go, like I went to go see in the theater because I wanted to see something that weekend. And I mean, it's a movie that I probably would watch again if somebody else wanted to watch it and they had a better TV than I have, because it would look better. But it's not like a movie that I would just go out and watch like on the drop of a hat kind of thing.
Yeah.
By the way, Amy, I want to watch it. Would you watch it with me?
Yeah.
No.
I would watch it again with you if you wanted to watch it.
All right, awesome.
And then Star Wars is another one of those gimmies because it's just like sound.
Star Wars, yeah.
And then Guardians of the Galaxy, I feel like that's a gimme too.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't anything special or different than like Star Wars or like even the first Guardians of the Galaxy, which I think the first Guardians looked a little bit better than this one. Me personally,
yeah, especially because I mean the first one is setting it up. They're pioneering what they're going to do, and the second one, it already has the foundation to start from. So it's not going to be as impressive unless they do something completely different and have valid reason for it.
I mean, I still like the second Guardians, but I'm with you guys. I didn't find anything that special about it.
I think probably the most special and groundbreaking part of the effects for Guardians was when they transformed the Ego into David Hasselhoff. Like just the transformation of him going into David Hasselhoff was like from Kurt Russell was just kind of the most.
I guess they had the age thing, which they sustained for a lot longer than we've seen before, where they made Kurt Russell younger. Because we've seen that a little bit in other films. Like we saw them do that to Tony Stark for like a scene in one of the Marvel movies, and like we've seen it for like a shot here and there, but this is the first time that it was like consistently like several scenes and like a lot of time they did that. So that might be part of why I got it too.
Yeah. And I think maybe like that whole fight like inside of Ego when like Peter turns into like Pac-Man and is like fighting. They're like fighting and they're like using their powers against each other, that kind of thing. But it's like it's nothing special or different like the way Planet of the Apes was at all.
Yeah. I wonder even if it goes back to Planet of the Apes, you don't even notice it anymore because it's so seamless.
Yeah. Like, it's kind of like gone past that uncanny valley kind of thing where it's like it's so like obvious, but then this is like it just looks like real apes.
Yeah.
So maybe that's kind of why people were like, maybe not.
Yeah, because I remember my first instinct when I saw it on the list, I was like, why would that be? And then I'm like, oh, right. That's like, of course it's going to be on this list. But
Okay. Any other thoughts on the effects? Because we're on to our last two categories, and we've been doing this for almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
I told you, we could talk about this forever.
I can't wait to see the final product of this, by the way, because I feel like I've been moving around so many times that whoever's going to watch is going to get motion sickness.
See, we're like, I'm holding my laptop, so I've noticed that, like, oh, sometimes I'm here, sometimes I'm like,
yeah, like
sometimes
I'm sitting on my floor and I just keep moving around.
And as soon as I mentioned my cat, she hissed from across the room.
Oh, my cat's probably hiding under my bed somewhere. She doesn't want to be a part of this.
I'm house sitting for somebody. I'm surprised their cat hasn't popped up yet.
Lestat has made it into multiple shots. Nosferatu is camera shy. You likely will not be seeing him.
Yeah, my cat's a little camera shy. She doesn't like to. She is hiding from me constantly. So we're on to our last two categories. And the first one is writing adapted screenplay. Call Me By Your Name, The Disaster Artist, which is its only nomination, Logan, which is its only nomination, Molly's Game, and Mudbound.
Also, only nomination on Molly's Game.
Yep, which I hadn't seen that. It's one that I really, really wanted to see because Aaron Sorkin's directorial debut, and I love anything he's written is amazing. So, yeah, this one was one I was like, I need to see that, but I just never got the time to go see it.
Yeah, so from these nominees, like, none of them particularly wowed me. I mean, I did love The Disaster Artist, and actually having read the book now, I see how they kind of changed it around, and it is a little bit more impressive, or like it's clear that they didn't just like, completely like translate it exactly. But on like first glance, the only one that wowed me was Molly's Game, but only because it's Sorkin, who's always gonna wow me. So like it didn't impress me any more than he would normally, which is still like Sorkin, everybody else. Like that's just how the world works. But yeah, I was okay with Call Me By Your Name. And when I realized that, like, before people started talking, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good category to give it a win. Because that tends to happen where, like, oh, we have all these Best Picture nominees, we need to award them somewhere. And yeah, I mean, it is a beautiful movie, beautifully written, and as worthy a winner as anything else.
Yeah, I think that's what they did for both of the writing categories. But I kind of would have liked to see Logan win just because, but that I feel like it would have been nice to have it win.
Was its victory.
What did you say?
I said the nomination was its victory. Like the fact that it was the list. Like that is
like I would have rather have liked to see Logan as an Academy Award winner than Suicide Squad as an Academy Award winner. Like, can we take back Suicide Squad's win?
Yes, I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. But I think that with it being Hugh Jackman's final time playing Theodore Logan, that would have been. I would have thought that would have been way too easy to give Logan the Oscar.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have like stellar writing. It's like I feel like it's nothing special compared to like. I mean, Molly's Game, like Dawn said, it's a Sorkin like written script, and Call Me By Your Name was just such a beautiful and like really heartfelt and touching story. And Logan was just kind of there. But I mean, it was such a great movie, and I feel like it should have been nominated for maybe something else, like maybe the cinematography, because like that scene in the hotel room was probably one of the coolest scenes I think I've seen in a while.
It's I love that you're talking about the scene where Patrick Stewart and
like he's facing the window and like all of those like goons are coming in, and then Logan comes up and kind of just like tears into him. Yeah, the way they like shot that technically was amazing.
Yeah, but I think Logan definitely benefited from the fact that this was a weaker category this year, because original screenplay was an insanely competitive category, and adapted was just kind of like, whatever. Like again, nothing.
Like, whatever was adapted from a book.
Yeah, so I feel like in any other year, it wouldn't have gotten in, and we'd be back where we always were. Of superhero movies don't get any sort of recognition outside of technical. So
Yeah.
it got lucky.
Yeah, I'm hoping with Logan being nominated this year and Suicide Squad being nominated last year, plus like The Dark Knight, that Black Panther gets something big next year. Like,
Yeah, there's
it
already
deserves it. Like, it's gonna be like Get Out, how Get Out was this year. How it came out like the day or the week before the Oscars last year, and like that's the same thing that happened with Black Panther, and
Yeah.
I feel like it could be Best Picture, like a Best Picture nominee, Best Writing nominee. I feel like maybe that would probably be like too easy.
Yeah, I'm already hearing buzz about people campaigning for it and wanting it to be in there. And I mean, just again, like cultural impact of the movie, and that's a big part of what got Get Out into the category was the cultural impact. And Black Panther, I think, has had an even bigger one. So,
and I've heard so much talk about Michael B. Jordan that he will probably be nominated for Best Supporting. Like,
that would be amazing.
He was so good. Like,
he needs to be Oscar nominated, just like in general. Like I thought he was going to get nominated for Fruitvale.
Changed my life. I watched that in one of my classes, and I became obsessed with that movie for a solid like 2 weeks. I could not stop talking about it. I was telling everyone to go watch it, and I feel like Ryan Coogler needs to be nominated for directing Fruitvale Station, just like after the fact, because that movie was so good.
I think the movie was just a little too small scale. If it had a little bit more studio power behind it, we would have seen some nominations, because Michael B. Jordan was probably the next one on the list that year.
Yeah. And I feel like he did, like, a lot of people are saying he overpowered Chadwick Boseman in this, and I totally agree.
Yeah.
Like, he was amazing, and everyone's like obsessed with Michael B. Jordan now. So yeah, and Lupita Nyong'o probably would be nominated for something as well. Probably like, I don't think she was lead actress, but she did a really great job.
I mean, she was great. I think if anyone would be, it would be Letitia Wright, because she was a scene stealer.
Oh, true. She was really good.
I think it would be a stretch for either of them to get in. I think if anyone would break through acting, it would be Michael B. Jordan.
Mm-hmm. And then I feel like that could be the powerhouse dark horse next year. I'm really hoping for that.
Yeah.
And then our final category is original screenplay. And it's The Big Sick, Get Out, Lady Bird, Shape of Water, and Three Billboards. All of these, I would have been like, yes, I'm okay with you winning. I was like not disappointed for any of them.
I would have been least okay with Shape of Water. I would have freaking loved to see Big Sick win, but I knew it wasn't going to happen. Getting the nomination was its own victory. And I called Three Billboards for the nomination and possible win when I first saw it. But then, I totally get why Get Out won. It was one of those like, oh, we want to award it something, and this was the perfect category for it. And I think it's a brilliant screenplay. I feel it was more deserving of Best Picture, but when it was clear that wasn't going to happen, the nice consolation prize.
I thought that Get Out was probably. Let me take that back. I think it was a dead heat between Get Out and Three Billboards.
Yeah,
as probably the most daring that I've heard.
Sure.
The absolute guts in both scripts, strong characters.
Yeah.
Get Out had those, like I said before, those Hitchcockian moments that you never see coming, and then the sheer guts and power behind Three Billboards. I just thought there was a dead heat in either one of those two.
For me,
would have been the most deserving.
For me, I love dialogue. Again, I worship Aaron Sorkin. Like, good dialogue will make or break a movie for me. And so from that reason, I liked Three Billboards better, just because dialogue is so good and there's so much to it. And again, that's also why I like Big Sick too, because it's such clever dialogue. But I mean, again, Get Out, totally deserving. It's not my taste in a screenplay because it's more concept driven than dialogue driven, but that is totally fine.
Right.
That's just, again, personal preference. And I love seeing Jordan Peele up on that stage. I've never been more happy to have been wrong about a prediction.
I agree totally 100% with both of you. Like, I absolutely loved Get Out, and I knew it was going to win because it's like it needs to be awarded something because it's such a good movie. And like I feel like Lady Bird was was very much left out of the race a lot in a lot of its categories.
I think its strongest shot had been supporting actress, because for a while at the beginning, people were saying Laurie Metcalf, and then it was her up against Allison. And then Allison wanted it so bad. She was working the circuit and like campaigning for it, and Laurie didn't really do a whole lot. And I mean, personally, I preferred Allison Janney.
Same.
But I think if Laurie Metcalf had campaigned for it a little harder, she might have gotten it, and then Lady Bird wouldn't have been empty-handed.
Yeah. But yeah, I think a lot of these were really strong contenders for like everything that they were nominated for. Well, I guess like The Big Sick was only nominated for this one thing, but like I feel like there were some really strong contenders overall this year that like in their own respective categories. And it was just there were some that were just like very obvious winners, like we had talked about at the beginning.
Yeah, and I feel like it seemed like it wasn't too competitive by the end just because things shook out like following all of the like Guild Awards and all the other majors. But definitely at the start of award season, so many of these could have gone to anybody. And it was just, the only reason it became predictable was because they all sort of fell in line after the first few.
Yeah. And normally it's not as predictable. I feel like normally like a lot of the Guild Awards go to a vast like variety of the nominees.
Well, that's why Best Picture was such a crapshoot, because that was the only one that did get split between a bunch of the majors. Because like, yeah, Three Billboards had a lot of the visible ones, but then Shape of Water had producers, but then they didn't even get the SAG nod, and like it was all sorts of chaos.
Yeah. And that's what I usually base a lot of my research on is the different like Guild Awards and Globes and like all of that kind of stuff. So it's like this one was super easy and I ended up getting like 20 out of 24, and like the three of the ones that I got were ones that I just threw like whatever up on there.
I feel like most of the ones that I missed, like if I had thought about it for 2 more days, I would have gone with the other, because it was always like, I think it's going to be this, but if not, it's going to be this. And it was always that second one that went out.
Because like the only one I was like really upset not like picking was editing. And I was just like, I know this is going to be the winner, but I'm not choosing it.
I'm mad at myself for not picking original screenplay, because like I think like I had this discussion with somebody on Stardust like after I had been like, okay, yeah, it's going to be this, and then they're like, oh, I love Get Out. I'm like, yeah, if they decide that they need to award Get Out, then it'll probably take it. And like, had I just thought about it a little longer, like then it would have been like, no, really, that's actually what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Do you think that Get Out could have been the safe get as far as awards? I mean, I personally I still think that Get Out deserves the award, but do you think that it was a little safe of a get?
I think so, because I think it could have gone to Three Billboards, personally.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been, like, my choice. If it wasn't like, oh, we need to award Get Out something, it would have gone to Three Billboards. And then after that, maybe Get Out or The Big Sick after Three Billboards.
Yeah.
I think if Three Billboards had maintained some of the initial momentum it had, because remember, there was some backlash and like and also when something's like winning everything, you kind of get tired of it. So I feel like if it didn't have that working against it, it probably would have won.
Right.
So I think that just about wraps it up with our 2-hour-long episode. But I think that was to be expected because there is a lot to talk about with the Oscars this year. Right. And I am so happy we got you on, Dawn. Like, this was amazing and so much
fun.
Great.
I love talking about this stuff.
It's like, I told you, your movie expertise is needed. It is absolutely needed.
Oh,
I'm so glad that you are our first guest.
Yes. Like,
Yay.
yeah, I'm so excited going forward, and we are definitely going to have you on as many times as we can because it's so much fun talking to you about all this stuff.
No, I love talking about movies. Like, give me the opportunity and I will not shut. Like, it's funny because like you guys know me from this side. Like, you know me as someone who likes film, and so that's what I talk about. But like, you put me in any other social situation and I just don't talk. Like, I am the quiet one, just observing and like, you know.
That's how I am though too. It's like at work, I'm really talkative because I work in a movie industry and we talk about a lot of pop culture stuff. So it's like I talk about a lot of that stuff. But if I'm by myself, I don't.
Well, so what's funny for me work-wise is so I work in software, and like before my job was like did like websites for nonprofits. So like I got along with people, but like, you know, it was like whatever. Now like I had the exact same job, but we do software for movie theaters. And so like there everyone knows me for like my movie expertise, and like it's funny because like everyone at work is like well trained to where, oh, you want to start a conversation with me, depending on, you know, if it's towards the end of the week or beginning of the week, it's what did you see this weekend or what are you seeing?
Yeah, like I've got like every Thursday I go into work early so I can leave early, and everyone knows at 4:00 when I'm packing up to leave, they're like, "What movie are you going to go see this week?" Or "What movie are you going to go see?"
Well, like if I'm sneaking out
right
at 5, if I'm sneaking out right at 5 on a Friday, it's like, what movie?
Yeah. Yeah, like, and I'm like the film historian with another one of my coworkers. Like, we're both like, if we need it, like somebody wants to talk about something old, which it's usually just me starting to talk about an old movie with somebody else and forcing it upon them, or like me and my coworker who likes old films. We spent, I think, 3 hours over the course of one day talking about I Love Lucy, just like randomly, and like all of Lucille Ball stuff and that. But yeah, we all like, yeah, everyone knows. And I've only been there for 3.5 months and everyone already knows that about me.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that just about wraps it up. I know, Aaron, we have kind of a special announcement to make that we actually are on iTunes now and SoundCloud.
Okay.
I have been trying to get us onto Spotify, but I haven't heard back from Spotify. So hopefully that will happen soon. But you don't have to listen to us in video form. You can listen to us on an actual podcast app.
Exactly. You can listen to us on that hike that you've always wanted to take.
Yeah, with us in your ears for 2 hours talking about the Oscars.
Please, yes. Please take me up the mountain with you.
Yeah, because I probably won't be going up there by myself.
Exactly. Amy's afraid of heights.
I am afraid of heights. Definitely afraid of heights.
Oh, okay. Dawn, heights, you?
I'm okay with heights if I feel I'm on something solid. So like if I'm in a building looking down, I'm fine. But if I'm on a ladder, I'm not so fine.
Oh, okay, good.
So Dawn will go on the hike with everyone while we stay on the ground.
Just don't make me look over the edge.
But
I can see my house from there.
Again, Dawn, thank you so much for coming on. And is there anywhere anybody can follow you? I'll put your links in the description as well, but just plug any of your social.
Yeah, Stardust is the big one. My blog, because I still write out typed out blogs in case anyone still reads. That's also ExpletiveDleted.com. My Twitter is basically ExpletiveDleted everywhere. Find me.
All right, and Aaron,
you're in CompuServe, right? Oh, go ahead. No, I'm just kidding.
I didn't hear what you said.
I was like, you're on CompuServe, right? No, okay.
Cool. And Aaron, where can people find you?
They can find me at McPersonFaceFS, and they can find me on Stardust. Person Reviews.
And I am at Not Amy K on Twitter and Movie Checklist on Stardust. So that is this episode, and in 2 weeks we will be talking about, what are we going to be talking about, Aaron? I forget.
Oh yeah, we are going to have Rad Dad on the show, and we're going to talk about hype in movies. What gets a person hyped about a film? I can't wait for this because I've got questions about this.
I do too, because I am not usually one to get too hype on movies. So this one is going to be a very, very interesting talk, because Rad Dad is probably one of the most hype people I know about talking about movies.
Yep.
I think he's the only person that I know of that starts off with "Yo, what's up?" I love the guy.
He has some
Probably
of
one
the
of the most explosive
best
personalities that we have on
Yeah.
Stardust.
So we will see you guys in 2 weeks for the next episode of Film Schooled. Bye.
See you later.
Bye.